Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
I walked out on my marriage with someone else. The consequences are now being faced by my family and me.
Dear listeners, we have crossed 1,600 subscribers and are now racing towards our first 2,000. Your one click to subscribe us would go a long way for us. Thanking you in advance. Now let's start with the story.
6 months after divorcing my husband, I find myself grappling with the overwhelming realization that it was a colossal mistake. This narrative is lengthy, but its significance deserves the attention of anyone contemplating divorce. If I could offer a piece of advice to anyone navigating the turbulent waters of divorce, it would be to refrain from making such a decision under normal circumstances. Of course, exceptions apply when there's abuse or imminent threats to your safety or that of your children. In my case, there was no such abuse. We shared 8 years together, most of which were good, and we were blessed with 4 children. Around the 5-year mark, I secured a promotion at work. Somehow, this accomplishment planted a toxic seed in my mind, convincing me that my ex-husband was a hindrance to my success and a barrier to a better life. Despite not having a lot of money during our marriage, my newfound financial standing, courtesy of the promotion, put me in a higher income bracket than him. In the pursuit of career advancement, I started working longer hours. Simultaneously, his hours were reduced, leading him to spend more time at home. Rather than appreciating the opportunity for him to be with our kids, I began to resent him. This resentment grew as I returned home to find chores undone and the children either preparing for bed or already asleep. In my distorted perspective, he was failing to uphold his responsibilities, and I couldn't forgive him for being present when I wasn't. Despite his assurances to try harder, I couldn't shake the anger that festered within me. Over the next couple of years, our situation deteriorated. My work hours remained long, and his employment fluctuated between part-time and full-time. There was never a convenient time for him to work full-time due to my demanding schedule, but our financial needs required it. Each time he proposed extra hours, I would complain, creating a contradictory cycle. The less he worked, the more I criticized his contribution to our finances. When he pointed out the contradiction, I would insist that he needed to figure it out. The resentment I felt deepened, and I began pulling away from him emotionally. It's only now, post-divorce, that I realized the toll my career-driven mindset took on our relationship. 6 months after divorcing my husband, I'm compelled to lay bare the intricacies of my tumultuous journey, acknowledging that the decision to end our marriage was, in retrospect, a colossal mistake. This narrative might be lengthy, but it holds a weight that I believe everyone should comprehend. If I were to offer advice to those contemplating divorce, I'd urge caution, especially under ordinary circumstances. Unless there's abuse or imminent danger, rushing into such a decision might not be the solution. In my case, there was no abuse. We shared 8 mostly good years and had 4 children. Around the 5th year, a career promotion stirred something within me. Suddenly, I perceived my ex-husband as a hindrance to my success. Despite our previous financial struggles, my newfound income surpassed his, fueling a growing resentment. I began working longer hours, and his reduced schedule meant he was more present at home. Instead of appreciating this time with our kids, I grew bitter. Feeling unfulfilled, I found solace in talking to a colleague, which gradually escalated into something more. I knew it was wrong, but it made me feel alive in ways my husband hadn't in years. Tired of my own unhappiness, I justified my actions, not caring about the hurt I was causing him. The breaking point was a night when he went above and beyond, cleaning the house, cooking dinner, and planning a family movie night. Rather than being grateful, I feigned sickness and spent the evening in bed, disconnected and indifferent. This marked a turning point where my actions spiraled into a destructive cycle. Every gesture he made seemed wrong to me, and I actively provoked fights. I'd wait for him to lose his temper, relishing in his apologies, which I never accepted graciously. I became convinced of my righteousness, and any attempts to salvage our relationship were met with resistance. The worst was revealing my involvement with someone else. I crushed him emotionally but refused to show any sympathy. Eventually, I initiated the divorce, fueled by a toxic mix of self-righteousness and external validation from online communities. The internet became my echo chamber, reinforcing my belief that my ex-husband was the problem. I posted about our relationship, received validation, and used it as encouragement to proceed with the divorce. As the legal process unfolded, I remained indifferent to his pleas for reconciliation. The divorce went smoothly, but the aftermath left him broken while I felt liberated. I could do as I pleased without guilt or accountability. Now, looking back, the weight of regret hangs heavy. It's a complex mix of emotions, and I can't help but wonder if things could have been different. Relationships are intricate, and decisions made in the heat of the moment may have long-lasting consequences. 6 months after the divorce, the initial rush of freedom was fleeting. The reality hit hard, especially during those times I missed garbage day, faced a sink full of dirty dishes, and encountered laundry piles that required the sniff test. My kids seemed more miserable than ever, and my oldest, having seen messages from the other guy months earlier, distanced herself. It wasn't long before she stopped talking to me, expressing her desire to live with her dad. The others followed suit. Desperate to make them happy, I resorted to buying toys, but the joy lasted only moments. Alone and struggling at work, I couldn't sustain the extra hours demanded of me. Reluctantly, I reached out to my ex-husband to watch the kids. He always came promptly, offering help and leaving without saying much. Despite my attempts to move on, a date triggered overwhelming guilt, culminating in a tearful therapy session a week later. I spilled everything, starting from the work promotion. The therapist didn't validate my decisions, challenging the encouragement I received to divorce. I found myself in her office 2, sometimes 3 times a week, unraveling the layers of my misguided choices. After around 2,000 therapy sessions, I began to see my ex-husband's faults, but more importantly, I recognized the magnitude of my own. I had said and done things that no one would want in a partner. Despite this, he had asked me not to go through with the divorce during the lawyer meeting. I did it anyway, boasting online about the newfound freedom. Recently, I approached him about getting back together. His tear-filled eyes spoke volumes. He confessed that the pain had been too much for too long. The relief I expressed when signing the divorce papers hurt him deeply. He doubted whether he could trust me again, fearing I might repeat the same mistakes. He stated that not only that he cannot trust me, I need to understand and face the consequences of my actions. Then he dropped the bomb: he is now seeing someone else. I had lost everything. The little hope for a return to a happy life was destroyed. Now, as I spend my free time either at home or on the therapist's couch, I reflect on the man I pushed away, the father I deprived my kids of, and the life of freedom that turned out to be anything but. It's a painful realization, and I'm grappling with the consequences of my choices, seeking forgiveness and understanding from those I've hurt.
Dear listener, if you have reached this far, please click on the subscribe button. It will be a great help.